أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ورضي الله تعالى عن سادة التابعين وعلماء العاملين وأئمة الأربعة المجتهدين ومقلدهم إلى يوم الدين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Today's lesson is with regards to the condition or the shurut of Salat. Before I actually get into today's class, I just want to mention something that I neglected to mention yesterday when we were talking about the prayer times. More specifically, when we covered the section dealing with the makruh or the disliked prayer times, we also mentioned the haram or the times where it is prohibited to pray. One of the things that I forgot to mention when mentioning that is when you're making up a prayer, a qada salat, meaning a salat that you missed for whatever reason. And in other words, it's qada, it's outside of its time, you missed it. And you're making up that prayer. There's no time that it is haram to make up that prayer. You should make it up as soon as you realize that you missed it. So if it happens to be that it's during one of these times, like while the sun is rising, or during the istawa period, or when the sun is at its zenith, or while the sun is setting, and you have to make up your prayers, you don't have to wait until after those 3 time periods. You can make up your prayer at, even during that time. Alhamdulillah.
And I missed yesterday's class, but I wanted to ask you again, if you have like a year's worth of prayers to make up, is it better to make it within the time frame of that individual prayer?
No, you don't have to. He actually deals with this in his book, which you just make them up.
Is it better to, or does it really matter?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh. قال المؤرخ رحمه الله فصل في شروط الصلاة وشروط الصلاة طهارة الحدث وطهارة الخبث من البدن والثوب والمكان وستر العورة واستقبال القبلة وترك الكلام وترك الأفعال كثيرة. He said the conditions of the prayer are, and he mentioned 6 things. And what we mean by conditions or shurut, these are things that must be in place or established normally or typically before the prayer begins. So yesterday, if you remember when we were talking about Salatul Maghrib and we talked about the Mukhtasar time, we talked about what is the maximum of the Mukhtasar time, meaning and the definition or the maximum length of the Mukhtasar time in our school is that you have enough time that it would take to fulfill the conditions, which we are about to mention now, and make the prayer. And so these are the conditions that's being spoken about. And I believe in maybe the class the day before yesterday, I believe that someone asked, when we were talking about the Mukhtar and the Rori time, like, is work an excuse to delay the prayer like this? And we actually want to come to that in this section, inshallah. So he says the conditions of the prayer are purification from ritual impurity. And this is the word hadath, purification from hadath. Hadath, ritual impurity. In other words, if you need to make ghusl, you make ghusl. If you need to make wudu, you make wudu. That's hadath, right? When we were earlier on in the book and we were talking about impurities, we were talking about, and sometimes they translate it as minor impurity, major impurity. There's a lot of different ways that it's translated, but hadath is, basically making sure that you're in a state of wudu, right? And the other term is kabath. Kabath is actually dealing with filth, like those impure substances, and making sure that your body, your clothes, and place of prayer are free of those things. And place of prayer, more specifically, is where your body's going to touch the ground. So in other words, if you're praying, right, just for an extreme example, like, your knees are going to touch the ground, your feet are going to touch the ground, your palms are going to touch the ground, and your forehead and your nose are going to touch the ground. But let's say while you're prostrating, for argument's sake, there's some blood or some urine or some feces, on the ground under your chest. Your prayer is still valid. And that doesn't mean you go look for some, I gotta say, because people have been asking questions like that. Well, you don't look for some urine or some feces and pray next to it, obviously, right? But, if you happen to be praying and you discover that, you're praying close to, some najasa or some filth, as long as it's not, it's anywhere your body's going to touch the ground, then you're good. Piggybacking on Abdul Mujib's question, if you have many prayers to make up, would your sunnah prayers be valid during that time? No. If you have many prayers, in our school, many prayers is defined by 5 or more. So that's a lot of prayers, right? So 5 or more prayers, that would mean that any time that you would normally do any sunnah, you will be making up those prayers. And you have to literally, you missed a year's worth of prayers or a lot of prayers like that. You literally have to, break it down and do what you can handle. Chop down as many of those missed prayers as possible. But yeah, you shouldn't be making any sunnah on the waffle prayers. I'm looking at the people who's watching. I see Imam Amin is watching, and I see Farouk is watching. So Farouk, Imam Amin caught you, undercover Maliki, pretending to be Shafi. We see you.
What about Fajr?
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't make Fajr either?
Can make those. That's a strong, highly recommended song. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everyone that I missed.
Tahajjud and Witr.
Come on, man. Nah, man. Let me get to that section first. That's what happens when you miss class, Aki.
I have a valid reason.
No, man. It's recorded. It's on video. You had 24 hours to watch it, Aki.
I have a valid reason.
No, what was the valid reason, Aki?
Work or sleep.
Nah, man. No, man.
Body has right.
Nah. Farouk said he's out. Maybe he just passed through. Maybe he didn't notice you. I don't know. Matter of fact, somebody screenshot this, right? I'm looking at the comments. It says Muhammad watching. Then under that, Farouk posted a dot, so he got you. And you should do all the made-up prayers in order. Yes, in order. But inshallah, we're going to be getting to that, inshallah. Try to stay disciplined. We're getting in order, inshallah. But you need to make them up. I guess if you are one of, I guess it's a pressing issue for you if you happen to be the one who missed those prayers. But so in your case, you keep them in order, and you make as many as possible until you make it up. And if you don't know how many that you missed, right? You take you estimate, and you take the highest number. You rather do too much than to fall short. And you know how much you can, how much everybody's different. Maybe you may want to make 10 extra prayers a day or whatever, but just as long as you make it up, and you need to do it consistently. You may be stronger than that. So you may be able to make up 20 extra prayers a day. But in any case, don't take it lightly, right? So, okay, well, I stopped praying around this time, and I started praying again around this time. How many days is that? How many fajrs is that? How many Dhuhr is that? How many asr, etc. And figure it out, calculate it. Be the IRS with your salat. You start getting money, the IRS count every penny, check every bank account, everything. This is more important than that. And so we should be like that with our own prayers. So he said the conditions of the prayer are purification from ritual impurity and filth from the body, the garment and place of prayer. Covering the awrah. Awrah is the private part. And we're going to come back to that later because he dedicates a few sentences towards that. And then he said, facing the Qibla. The Qibla is the direction of prayer. In other words, we face towards the Kaaba in Mecca. We face towards the Kaaba in Mecca. And so we face in the Kaaba, and that direction that we face is called the Qibla. This can actually be, with some people, it's a hot topic for many different reasons. But it's one of the conditions of the Salat. And in North America, you have this issue. Is the Qibla northeast, or is it southeast? And that's really an oversimplification, because it's not technically northeast for those who have that opinion, nor is it technically southeast for those who have that opinion. Because northeast is exactly in the middle of north and east, and southeast is exactly in the middle of south and east. What's really being said with both arguments is that slightly north of east or slightly south of east. Now, with that being said, when you're trying to face the Qibla, you got two broad categories. You have, obviously, if you're in Mecca and you can see the Kaaba, the issue is simple. You just face it. In other words, you should be able to draw a straight line between you and the Kaaba, right? Now you have those of us who are, away from the Kaaba. We're in another city or in another country, what have you. So how do you determine which way the Qibla is? And the strongest way to determine is with the North Star. And the North Star, which whenever you face the direction of the North Star, you know that you're facing north. And so basically, if you're west of the Kaaba, right, you would, face the North Star and then turn towards the east. So basically, you would be, say if this is north, right, and this would be east. So you're facing the North Star, and so then you just turn to your left side, and depending on how far north or how far south you are, you would adjust a little bit.
Turn to your right.
Right. So turn to your right. So if what I meant by it's on your left side, right? So basically, if you're in the northern hemisphere like us, you would, once you determine which way is north and then you face east, you would turn a little bit south because you're already north. So you would turn a little bit south in order to face the Qibla, right? And so one of the big controversies in this country is that some people say, the Qibla is northeast or north of east, and really, I don't know about all of you, but the people I've come across and dealt with usually fall into four kind of like broad categories on this issue. You find one group of people who never really paid attention to it, never really thought about it too much, and they just automatically think, okay, it's northeast. Every book I've seen and every website I've been on and every masjid that I go to, that's the way their Qibla is situated, northeast. And then you have the second group that, in my mind, they're kind of like fanatic with it. Every issue is a Qibla issue. You could be talking about, haram meat, brothers shouldn't be eating haram meat. Yeah, that's true. But which way do they face when they make salat? What's their Qibla, right? It don't matter what the issue is. They believe, there's a prophet after Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yeah, that's true. I wonder which Qibla they face. The northeast or southeast. I mean, everything is like they like fanatic with it. Qibla. You 1/10 a degree off. Ah, man, I don't know about you. You might not be Muslim. They're like real extreme with it. Qibla. Yeah. And a Qibla is an important issue because in many hadith and many ayat of Quran that establish the Qibla, and the hadith, there's some hadith that indicate that one of the ways who a Muslim is istiqbal qiblatina, those who face our Qibla, right? So the Qibla is an important issue, but like some people are like extremely fanatic with it. Like if you don't agree with them, like they ready to fight you physically sometimes, right? Or they'll come in your masjid and change your Qibla, right? You're like, what is this dude doing? Right? Like everybody pray one way, he's praying a whole different way. Like, so what? And like real dogmatic about it. And so, and the people I'm describing, they believe that the Qibla is south of east, right? And then you have the third group of people who don't get along with that group of people, and they have some interactions with them, and so they like, nah, Qibla is north of east. And usually those people, a lot of them, at least especially nowadays, they trace their position really back to one person in one book. And then you have the fourth group of people, and I put myself and ourselves in that category, and we believe that the Qibla is south of east. This is the way we orient our masjid, and we're not tripping about it. We just recognize the traditional way, so to speak, of determining the Qibla. We recognize it's south of east. And if we go into a masjid and their Qibla is north of east, we're going to pray there in the same direction as everyone else praying there, even though they're praying north of east. We're not going to make a big deal about it. And especially in our school, it's really not a big deal, because in our school, you have a 90-degree in each direction room of error, right? What does that mean? So let's say I'm talking to y'all on the internet, right? So let's pretend that the way I'm facing is really the Qibla, right? Well, obviously the Qibla is on the other side of the planet. I don't know where it is. So let's say I pray, right? And I pray like this, slightly off from being straight, right? I'm praying a little bit off. And in our school, my prayer would be valid. And so we say 90 degrees, meaning basically the Qibla is really this way, right? Straight into the camera, but I make an error and I'm either off this way or I'm off this way a little bit, right? So that's 180 degrees total, right? 90 degrees on each side. And so, and I was like, what's the proof of, because some people, like the second group I talked about, they real dogmatic. You centimeter off. You not only your prayer invalid, your Islam is in question, right? Like they go hard with it. And so, as what's the proof? And I heard many of our scholars say it, but I asked, what's the proof of the Sharia, for this, this room, or like Farouk just said, room of discretion, meaning you tried your best to find the Qibla, but you're not looking at it, so you could be off, right? Not like you deliberately pray some, off, right? So asked the proof, and he mentioned the ayat from the Quran. He said, for Walli wajhaka shatr al-masjid al-haram, the ayat, Surah al-Baqarah, verse number, I think I got it wrong, verse number 150, right? He mentioned that the verses that command us to face the Qibla mention the face, turn your faces towards the Qibla, right? The face is not just the front part, the face is this part and that part too. So that's, Allah says, turn your face. So even if the Qibla is this way, but I'm off this way, my face is still facing it. Or my face is still facing it. So we have that room of error in our school. So we don't have to trip. And, so let's pretend for argument's sake that Qibla is south of east, the way I'm looking at y'all now. Then I go into another masjid and they praying north of east. So that means we facing a little bit more this way. That's in our 90-degree room of error. So we don't have to trip and have an argument and be fighting and kicking each other out of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'at. And, with regards to that issue, it's not an argument.
Or making up your salat when you get home or something.
Oh yeah, or making up salat when you get home, or you go in the masjid and then, they make it salat in congregation, and you on a toilet pretending that you're taking a dump, waiting for the salat to be over with, so that then you can go. And then when everybody notice you praying by yourself, everybody else Qibla this way and you praying this way. You don't have to do all that. You don't have to do all that.
They move you, then you move yourself back.
Oh yeah, if you get with a real belligerent type person, they'll be moving you, and whatever. Or the brothers stand up and make an announcement. I just wanted to inform everybody that your Qibla is wrong. I brought my compass with me, and all of your prayers have been invalid. How long has Master been here? 30 years? All of your prayers for the last 30 years are invalid. You don't have to do all that. But there's people like that. There's always people like that. They feel like, you know what? Nobody else recognized this issue. All the thousands of people that came in, except for me. I recognized it. I'm the smartest one in the room. And you know what? I'm going to correct everybody right now. The truth must be established. And I'm the only one that can do it. Right here, right now, in front of all of y'all. All of y'all prayers is messed up and been messed up for 30 years. You need to fix it. So, alhamdulillah, we don't have that issue. And my advice is when you deal with people like that, leave them alone. Let them be great. Let them be great. That's right. You are the mujaddid, the Qibla mujaddid, the mujaddid of the Qibla. You, go ahead, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So, alhamdulillah. Yeah, I got to coin that, the Qibla mujaddid. Yeah. But a lot of people be dogmatic about this. Like, it actually happened the other night. We was in there having a talk. We talk about something else. It's Qibla, northeast or southeast, right? Well, we're talking about, Islamic movements, but the Qibla, right? SubhanAllah. Anyway, facing the Qibla. Just by other ways. There's other ways traditionally to determine the Qibla. I mentioned one. There's a lot of ways, but they all talk about how the North Star is the strongest way, and they talk about Orion's belt. That's what I don't even know what Orion's belt look like. I gotta look it up. The rising of the sun, because at 2 times during the year the sun rises directly east. And so, but based upon where you are on the earth, where the sun rose at, And so you know which way to orient yourself after, because you know the sun doesn't rise 100% directly east every day. It moves a little bit every day to a little bit south, a little bit north, right? But 2 times a year the sun rises 100% exactly due east. So the fifth condition is avoiding speaking. That means, you know, any speech that's not directly connected with the Salat. So in other words, if the imam makes a mistake in Salat, you can say subhanallah, because that's part of the Salat. And we're asked, I run into this all the time. I would like to ask if you have heard how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam determined it in his travels. I've read books and articles, but nothing necessarily quoting a hadith. So Allahu alam. No, I haven't heard. Wait, what you brothers want to eat? The Qibla. Wait. The brothers like real fanatic with that. No matter what you're talking about. Nah, see, we get this Qibla. Right?
Yeah. The key is important. What about the Qibla?
Yeah. The truth is that the Qibla was always southeast of North America until the 70s. That's correct. When ISNA had their scholar school in secular sciences give the position of northeast, Kawkab Shaukat, his name, every Khalifa in his musjid. His musjid. Did the Sheikh tell you to say it like that too, musjid? We say masjid. I'm messing with him. Every masajid affiliated with ISNA pushed the northeast position exactly. Even before ISNA was formed, when they was just still like MSA, they was doing that. And then the sixth condition is avoiding a lot of unnecessary movement, meaning inside of the prayer. And what's the definition of unnecessary movement? The scholars give like a loose definition, meaning that if somebody was watching you pray, if they couldn't figure out if you was actually praying or not, that's too much movement. I think in other schools, they have a more definitive, like 2-3 movements or something like that. In our school, it's like you doing so much in your salat that people won't even think that you're praying if they looked at you. So continuing, he said, وعورة الرجل ما بين سرة والركبة والمرأة كلها عورة ما عدا الوجه والكفين وتكره الصلاة في so this word this pants always get me في سراويل إلا إذا كان فوقها شيء. He said, the private parts, the aura of a man are what is between his navel and his knees. And the reason why he's mentioning this, again, because the third condition of the salat is covering the aura. So your aura must be covered in salat for it to be accepted. So the private parts are for the aura for a man are what is between his navel, or what a lot of us call belly button, and his knees. And this is extremely important now because, you know, a lot of our fashion choices don't take these things into consideration. So when we're making the prayer, everything between our navel and our knees should be covered. And the scholars say that we should even go a little bit further than the limit so that when we make our movements, those parts won't come uncovered, right? So a lot of times our fashion choices, it ain't like, you know, when I was a little younger, when big T-shirts were around, and remember not too long ago, like when I was living in Philly, the fashion in the street was big white tees, right? So if you was wearing street or urban fashion, you wouldn't have to worry about all that, make it slide. But now the style is tight and short, right? So you wear one of these T-shirts or one of these other type of shirts that's tight and short, 9 times out of 10, when you bend over, your aura is going to be exposed, the level beneath your belly button, because even the way the pants are cut, and a lot of us, and on top of the fact, some people sag. So that's why sometimes I hate praying behind certain people. You pray behind some people, you come on, man. See your butt crack, man, stop. Man, I don't want to see all that, right? But this person is invalidating their salat. Their aura is not covered. Your aura has to be covered for the whole prayer, not just when you're standing up, whatever. When you move, your aura has to be covered through the entirety of your salat.
That's breeze.
Yeah, and I'm like, how you not feel that breeze? Yeah.
Used to it. New to it.
We use, I was making fun of Khalifa's insistence on using the U in the word masjid or masajid, right? He said we use you like in the word mustard, right? That's still an A, right? You don't say in Arabic.
That's some benefits.
Nah, it's not Hanafis. It's just that particular Hanafi branch right there. The Khalifiya Hanafi branch. We're gonna put this U in there. And matter of fact, the next time I'm writing, I'm putting a capital U. you know how Khalifa, right? Hope you don't mind. We messing with you, Khalifa. I travel a lot and find myself in strange places like Ogdensburg. You talking about Ogdensburg, New York? Because I traveled to Ogdensburg myself. Ogdensburg. My son don't believe me, LOL. I told him in my time people wore oversized clothes. Yeah. Like when I was young, when I was in my early teens and preteens, right? Run DMC era, Lee's, thinking back on it, it wasn't tight, but it wasn't loose either. When people wearing Lee jeans and shell top Adidas, definitely wasn't loose. It wasn't tight like now, right? But that wasn't so loose.
Yeah.
But by the time I became an older teenager, still in my teenagers, I remember the clothes got bigger, right? Got way bigger, right? Then fast forward, I think when I just mentioned living in Philadelphia, I was in my 30s.
And you can actually tell by the rap video. You can see when it's changing.
Yeah, so at that time, then clothes got real baggy, even baggier than when I was a teenager. Then they just went complete the other way, skin tight. I be wanting to ask some people, like, dude, do y'all like wearing stretch pants like girls? I mean, back in the day when girls used to wear tight clothes, right? Some of them used to have to put Vaseline on their legs to put it on. So I don't know. I wonder if these dudes is doing that. I don't know. This stuff be extra tight.
I don't know.
Yeah. But for us, when me personally, I like to dress in a way that when I go out the house, if prayer comes in, I ain't got to worry about all that. I know that I'm covered enough to make my prayer. Some people, they like, I'm going to dress the way I want. And then when it's time for prayer, then I got to, cover and all that kind of stuff. But we're talking about salat now, but your aura is your private parts. Nobody should be seeing your aura, not just for salat. Nobody should be able to see your private parts. And this includes men. When we say private parts in this context, we're not just talking about the sexual organs. We're talking about your nakedness. Nobody should be seeing that. And so then he said, As for the woman, her entire body is considered her awrah, except her face and her hands. So her entire awrah, her entire body except her face and her hands are considered awrah. And then he said, it is makruh, we're going to stop here. It is makruh, disliked to make salat in pants or any lower garment, I put that in parentheses, except if something else is worn over them. So what he's trying to say here is that you can wear like for example, an izar or a pair of pants, and the pants could technically cover your awrah, meaning it could come high enough where it's covering your navel level, and it could be low enough that it will cover your knees. So technically your awrah is covered, and you could pray. And if you pray like that, your prayer would be valid. What he says is makruh. That's why they say you should have at least another covering along with that. So, it's not good to pray bare-chested if you don't have to.
Urkel style.
Urkel.
Yeah, where the shit
Oh, yeah, the t-shirt, the password. Right. Yeah. Your prayer would be valid, but it's considered makruh. What does makruh mean? Disliked. What is the effect of doing something that's disliked?
It's not not rewardable or any punishable.
It's not rewardable. You don't get reward for doing something that's disliked, but it's not punishable either. What is the reward for staying away from something that's disliked? What is the effect, rather, of staying away from something that's disliked or makruh? Alhamdulillah, Sada. You get rewarded for not doing it. So you get rewarded for not trying to pray Urkel style or in one lower garment, one waist sheet, right? You should cover your chest. You should wear something else over that. Khalifa again said the definition of makruh depends on the madhab. Yes, and we Maliki over here. And we're not taking too kindly of your Hanafi intrusions. Matter of fact, the next time you come to the masjid, it's on site. Can I get a takbir? Alhamdulillah, y'all kind of weak in that takbir. Listen, when he come to Juma, it's on site. Alhamdulillah. Are there any questions? We're going to stop there today, inshallah. This is not the end of the section. We have a short more to go. But do we have any questions with regards to the conditions of Salat that we covered already?
Well, I got something that you mentioned earlier about when you got more than 5 Salats to make up. But I'm talking about years to make up, so to speak. And you said in order. So meaning that, for example, like one could not make up, like just go hard on straight subah salat, like bang, subah all day, every day until the subah is gone out the way, then go to the next one. Or in order meaning
not according to what I understand, meaning in the order that you missed them. So obviously you're going to be making subah, dhuhr, asr, maghrib, isha, subah, dhuhr, like that. Imam Amin said, what kind of weak top is that? You better call up reinforcements. Yeah, I got to call some brothers from Atlantic City or something, man. These weak top bears, man. You let Dawah to Hanafiya, Khalifa just called it Khalifa Dawah to Hanafiya. Y'all letting Dawah to Hanafiya get to y'all? Y'all really going to stand for this? And alhamdulillah, we ride. Alhamdulillah. Some of the brothers ride. Oh, I got agents among me, Khalifa. He says some of them brothers is riding with me, including that ex-Hanafi you got sitting in the Dars. Which one of y'all you talking about? I think I know who he talking about. The one sitting closest to me. Alhamdulillah. 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 So I don't see any questions here. So Alhamdulillah. We're going to pray Isha, and then we'll get to our Umdatul Bayan class. May Allah reward all of y'all. I pray that this information was beneficial and that it will increase and improve our worship and connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wal 'asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilu salihati wa tawassaw bil haqqi wa tawassaw bis sabr. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.